Good evening, this is No Spin, I'm Nidhi Razdan. Hardik Patel, former Gujarat Congress chief and prominent face of the influential Patidar community, switched sides today and joined the BJP. Once a fierce critic of Prime Minister Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah, today Hardik Patel is all praise for their leadership. His switch to the BJP is significant because it comes just months ahead of assembly polls in the state. For the Congress, it's yet another high-profile exit and another blow to the party which is reeling from infighting on multiple fronts as well as a leadership crisis. Hardik Patel gained prominence during the Patidar agitation of 2015-16, demanding reservations for his community, and that played a big role in reducing the BJP to double digits in the assembly at 99 seats for the first time in years. The party has now been in power in Gujarat for 27 years. Hardik then went on to join the Congress in 2019, but then resigned last month, shooting off an angry letter to Sonia Gandhi complaining about the top leadership being distracted with their mobile phones and chicken sandwiches. The Patel community, to which Hardik belongs, has an influence in about 70 of Gujarat's 182 seats, so it is a sizable chunk. But how much of an impact will this have in the state polls where the Aam Aadmi Party has now emerged as a new challenger to the BJP as well? Let's get straight to it. We have Pawan Khera of the Congress party joining us, PKD Nambiar, political analyst and BJP supporter, joining us as well. I'll begin with these two first. Pawan Khera, how much of a setback is it, honestly? Just months ahead of the Gujarat polls, a leader who was instrumental in at least helping the Congress boost its numbers last time and the BJP's numbers coming down. Wouldn't you accept that it is a setback?
No, I wouldn't. I'll tell you my reasons why I don't think this is a setback. I'm in charge of the media communication for Gujarat. In the last 6 months, Nidhi, I've been there at least 12 times, 12 different programs. Believe me, I have not seen Mr. Hardik Patel, the so-called working president of my party in Gujarat, even once in any of those programs in the PCC. And I kept asking my colleagues, now I can tell you, why is it? Every time I asked, they said, look, he never attends any programs. So here you had a working president who, I'm sorry, but refused to work. Why do you think it's a loss for us? For every Hardik Patel, there is a Jignesh Mevani also in Gujarat. This is the same Hardik Patel, Nidhi, who had once, not once, several times said that Amit Shah is General Dyer. BJP has offered me 1200 crores, but the deal didn't work out. So, these are his words, not my words. So maybe there is some deal which has worked out. After all, there were 28 cases, including sedition against him. Suddenly, all those cases are diluted. He's looks like going scot-free. So we know what's happening.
Well, that's an interesting point because Mr. Nambiar, one understands that even within the Gujarat BJP, there's a lot of discomfort over taking Hardik Patel on board. There are already a lot of Congress turncoats, those who walked away from the Congress in the last couple of years. Those guys have to be adjusted. But Hardik Patel has been very vociferous in his criticism of the Prime Minister and his criticism of the Home Minister. Pawan Khera described the language that he used. You think that taking him on is necessarily a good thing to do for the BJP?
I'll tell you, the Patidar movement which Hardik Patel has led when he was just 22 years. Today he is almost 29 years old, and if he is realized that what is the real development and the politics of development, how will it impact, and which is the party which can bring some kind of a value for him or to the community which he belongs to or he stood for, I think we should all welcome. And secondly, that the BJP is a large party which comprises of people from every section of the society. And I would say that it is going to be a win-win situation for both for the BJP and Hardik Patel as a leader. And what he said, if at all, if we have to believe, I don't have any reason not to believe him. He was suffocated, not being given any importance. He was not given any work. Despite becoming a working president, he don't know which area he need to work. So I think there are two elements we need to learn from this. One party, the people the exodus is taking place. Leaders after leaders are leaving one party. On the other side, the other party is welcoming or it becoming the place where everybody wanted to or feel that every leader feels that it is the aspirational place. I think it also gives a feeling that the Gujarat is still with the Modi or the BJP, and that's the mantra. And you also need to look at this way, that the election is very close by. Where is Rahul Gandhi? Was he there in Gujarat? How many times he has visited? How many times Sonia Gandhi visited or Priyanka Gandhi visited? If at all, if we treat these three are the main leaders of Congress. But on the other side, the BJP as a party is fully prepared both on the ground. All their morchas are...
So it doesn't matter if people have abused Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah in the past and, you know, said all kinds of things about them. They'll be embraced by the BJP. You don't care. I mean, that doesn't matter.
See, I would say in politics, definitely the people do throw at each other at times. And if one is ready to accept the leadership of the senior most people, I think one should welcome. I'm sure that he must have felt and realized that whatever he said in the earlier would have been really wrong. Otherwise, why should he join BJP?
Pawan Khera, let me ask you though this, you know, on the Gujarat election, I'm just looking at data points, you know, of the last couple of assembly elections. And you can see that the BJP, which had a massive, you know, vote share of 69.7% after 2002, after the riots, that fell to 54.4% in 2017. And the Congress's vote share went up from 28 to about 42%. At this time. Now, obviously, there's anti-incumbency. But why do you think that the Congress has not been able to capitalize on that? You did, I mean, you gave the BJP a bit of a scare in that assembly election. But what happened after that?
Nidhi, before I come to this, I want to remind Mr. Nambiar and also your viewers, within 72 hours between January 11th and 13th, 10 BJP MLAs left the BJP in Uttar Pradesh. They had no ideological, grooming of RSS, of course. They were from BSP, one of them was from the Congress, they joined the BJP and then they left the BJP. Hardik Patel had no grooming in the Congress. He himself said, and to me also personally, that main to Shakha bhi gaya hua hu jata tha. So his grooming was somewhere else. But coming back to Uttar Pradesh, despite those people leaving the BJP, what happened in the results? What happened in the elections? So if someone, now Arjun Singh, their MP in West Bengal, has left them, MP, it's not a state cabinet or an MLA, MP छोड़कर वापस से TMC चले गए. बताइए क्या इसका मतलब?
But Pawan Khera, the Congress leadership is not in the same position of strength that a Mamta is in Bengal or that the BJP is in UP with Modi and Yogi.
Things change. As you yourself said, Nidhi, from 28 to 42 is a huge rise. So in terms of percentage, so those things change. Whether today we are strong and tomorrow we'll be weak or vice versa is not what we are discussing. Let's come closer to election, then you'll see our strength. Because we have a long list of people from the BJP, including some very senior people who are absolutely ready to join. And you will see in
Gujarat,
days to come, weeks to come, in Gujarat, in weeks to come, we'll have discussions on that. And I hope you do debates on why has this person joined the Congress?
Certainly, if that happens, let's see what happens. Ajay Ummat is the editor-in-chief of Nav Gujarat Samay and joins us as well. Ajay ji, just wanted to get a sense from you on how important a political development this is. Is this act, did the BJP even need Hardik Patel to boost its sort of base in the Patidar community? Isn't it clear that the BJP has regained a lot of the ground in the Patel community? It's been doing well in local elections in Gujarat. So why did they take Hardik? Was it just to spite the Congress or perhaps to just put him in his place?
Look, Nidhi, this deal was done before 6 months when there was change of guard in Gujarat. When Bhupendra Patel was made chief minister in Gujarat, because Congress was hobnobbing with Naresh Patel, and Naresh Patel was demanding that he should be projected as next chief minister in Gujarat. Hardik is a very, very ambitious man. He wanted to contest election in 2019 also, and at that point of time, Visnagar court in Gujarat has convicted him for 2 years punishment, and Gujarat High Court did not give him relief. If you recall, recently, as Pawan Khera has said, government of Gujarat was very, very charitable and they have diluted so many cases, and suddenly, he got relief from Supreme Court also, and government of Gujarat has filed an affidavit in favor of Hardik since last 6 months, and Hardik, earlier there were 32 cases and now only 21 cases are left, and in most of the cases he is getting relief. So number one, Hardik wanted to contest election and he wanted to compromise with BJP only because of this reason, because he has political ambition. Number one. Number two, BJP thought that, if Naresh Patel is joining Congress party and if Congress is offering him or is willing to project him as chief minister candidate, then they wanted somebody to fight against him, and that is the reason. And third thing, that BJP wanted to close their this Patidar chapter, because as on today, more than 65 to 70% Patidar community is with BJP. They have made Bhupendra Patel as chief minister in Gujarat, so BJP is very, very comfortable, but they don't want to take any chance. So that's the reason they have taken him in the party. But having said this, one section of BJP is very, very unhappy with this decision of High Command. Maybe one group, if you see that today chief minister was not present, earlier Hardik Patel wanted that he should be joining party when prime minister is there.
Exactly what I was asking Mr. Nambiar. There's a resentment within the BJP also.
Give me 30 seconds. Hardik requested that he should join BJP in presence of Prime Minister in Arcot. That request was not granted. Then Hardik wanted to join on this 29th when Amit Bhai and Prime Minister was present in Gandhinagar. That request was not granted, and then he was told that on 30th Mansukh Mandavia and Purushottam Rupala from central ministers, they will come. That was also not allowed. Even today, only party president and Nitin Bhai Patel, only two leaders were there. Anandiben Patel did not give him, blessings to join party. He tried to contact her. She did not speak to him. So one very big section, even chief minister did not go, though he was there in Kamlam, but he did not meet Hardik Patel. So I am definitely
it's very interesting.
Very unhappy with Hardik.
Yeah, absolutely. And one wonders then, whether it's also to put him in his place and maybe sort of pull him back from the kind of fierce criticism that he was leading against the Prime Minister and the Home Minister and the BJP. Rakesh Hirpara is the AAP spokesperson from Gujarat, and the Aam Aadmi Party, of course, is now emerging as this other interesting force in the state. Mr. Hirpara, how are you sort of watching this politics playing out? Do you really think it's advantage AAP?
Okay. Am I audible, Nidhi?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, before answering to your question, I want to tell you a little bit about the ground reality of Gujarat. People of Gujarat are actually tired of inflation, unemployment, and the daily problems of their lives. They actually now get angry to see such betrayal and dramas of leaders and political parties. People want relief from their problems. They want good education, good health facilities, employment. They do not care about what these leaders do. And Aam Aadmi Party, if I talk about my party, Aam Aadmi Party, we have constantly been fighting as the voice of the people of Gujarat.
Are you occupying the space? Are you occupying the space that the Congress, in a sense, has lost over the last few years?
Actually, as I said earlier, the people are tired. They want relief from their problems, and that's why every section of the society is with Aam Aadmi Party, and they are looking at the Aam Aadmi Party as a ray of hope, whether they are the voters of Congress or whether they are voters of the BJP.
Okay, let me ask Neerja Chaudhary, as a veteran journalist, Neerja Chaudhary, couple of things here. One, how much of a threat actually is the AAP to the BJP in Gujarat? Is it really a serious alternative to the Congress, or is it too soon to write off the Congress there? And two, is Hardik Patel's exit really going to be another body blow then for the Congress?
I think the AAP is going to increasingly occupy the opposition space, but it's going to take time. It's not going to be an overnight development, and I think they may pick up in this year when the assembly elections are held, but not enough to give a real challenge to the BJP. I think the scene is pretty well open for the BJP to come back to power in Gujarat, and it's too important a state for the BJP not to pull out all stops. Hardik Patel leaving the Congress, I don't know what he's done as far as his own political career goes. You know, the credibility of the person doing this kind of shifts that he has himself made, it doesn't speak well. You know, it is all right that the Congress didn't give him what he wanted, but he was, after all, made the working president. You were given that leadership position. Why did you not use it? Why did you not get your own team together? Why did you not tour the state? It's not as if his hands and feet were tied up. So I think Hardik Patel is, out of this whole episode, it's Hardik Patel who's turned out to be the biggest disappointment. And his credibility is going to take a knocking. He strengthens the BJP insofar as he weakens the Congress. Otherwise, I don't know how much more he brings to the table.
But does it make a fundamental difference in the Patel community? Because as Ajay ji was saying earlier as well, they've already seemed to have forgiven the BJP for the earlier agitation.
Exactly.
So in a sense, does Hardik really make a quantitative difference?
No, I don't think so. I think the Patel community, Patidar community, has taken its view irrespective of Hardik Patel. And as I said, you know, the way they received him today, with just the party chief being there, shows the kind of importance they are giving him. So I think, जैसे पैर पे कुल्हाड़ी मारना होता है ना, Hardik Patel has really done that, a sort of rising star on the horizon.
So Pawan Khera, would you concede though that despite all this, chalo Hardik is gone, ho gaya, and it might be a pair pe kulhadi as Neerja Chaudhary has described it, but that the Congress needs desperately to get its act together in the state, and that the AAP is knocking at your heels?
No, Nidhi, I don't know why we didn't, including me, we didn't mention how 5 corporators from Surat, AAP, joined the BJP, sitting corporators. Hundreds of workers of AAP, after Arvind and Bhagwant Mann visited Gujarat, within few hours after that, joined the BJP. So all these things really don't matter. Yes, we need to definitely put our narrative in place, which we are in the process of doing. The PCC president is very dynamic and he's taking everybody along with him. You saw how when Jignesh Mewani, who's not a part of our party, when he got picked up by the Assam police, you saw the entire Congress on the roads. You see the Tapi movement being run in the tribal areas of Gujarat on the Tapi river issue. Mukesh Patel, he's a rising Congress star and there is no other party on the road. The COVID Nyaya Yatra, which other party came out on the roads for the COVID Nyaya Yatra and forced the government of Gujarat to change its figures of the number of deaths in COVID. So I don't know why national media doesn't cover it, but our friend from Gujarat, he's a very reputed journalist, ask him. The regional media is definitely giving us very good coverage on our activities and we've been very, very active. This is one party which is all over the road. 18 times there have been paper leaks in Gujarat. 18 exams have been cancelled. Which other party?
In the local elections last year, you didn't do well at all, Pawan Khera.
That happens. But
I know, but after increasing your vote percentage in the assembly polls before that, right? So what happened?
I mean, election, you can't just say that since you didn't do well in the by-elections, you're over. Or since you did very well in 2017, you're all over the place. You can't judge any political party's performance by just the last election. Of course, we need to do much better and we are all over the place in Gujarat.
Well, let's see how that plays out.
No other party.
Pawan Khera, PKD Nambiar and Neerja Chaudhary, I'd like you to stay with us as we move on to another segment, and I'd like to thank the other two guests, Ajay ji and Rakesh ji, for joining us, because we're talking about resort politics now in Rajasthan and Haryana, because you've got the Rajya Sabha elections taking place next week on the 10th of June, and the Congress is now seriously worried in both these states that its MLAs could be poached or horse trading is very likely to happen. So the Congress's Haryana MLAs today were being flown to Raipur in Chhattisgarh. That's where they're going to be for the next week or so. In Haryana, the Congress candidate Ajay Maken now faces a serious challenge from businessman Kartikeya Sharma, who suddenly made a last-minute entry as an independent. Though the Congress has one MLA missing in that flock, that's Kuldeep Bishnoi. So that could, signal potential trouble. And in Rajasthan also, their MLAs have moved to a resort in Udaipur, which is incidentally where they just had their Chintan Shivar only recently. Pawan Khera, how worried are you all about this horse trading? Obviously, quite worried.
No, we just need to be cautious because of the kind of political culture BJP has introduced over the last 7 to 8 years. They lose elections in Goa, come back through back door. Look at what they did in Madhya Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, state after state. These people have no regard for democratic processes. So obviously, अगर मैं अपने घर पे ताला लगाता हूं बचाने के लिए अपने सामान को, तो आप मुझे तो नहीं ब्लेम करेंगे, आपको तो चोर को ही ब्लेम करना चाहिए. So ask Mr. Nambiar, don't ask me.
Mr. Nambiar, is the BJP fishing in troubled waters?
It's very well, I don't know, since Pavanji is a communication head of Congress, I want to ask that what is the communication level between the Congress leadership and the Congress, the second level or third level of leadership? Why the people wanted to leave? If the people wanted to leave, one, I'll tell you the reasons. One, every leader has got their own aspiration. If your senior leadership is not able to be that aspirational, then there is a challenge. Secondly, you told, you were mentioning about two leaders, Ajay Makan and Kartikeya Sharma. Kartikeya Sharma is not just a businessman. He was coming from a Congress family. So if they are not able to put their own house in order, they are not able to put their 30, they can't believe and trust their own MLAs. If they cannot hold on to their own MLAs, how do you expect them to hold on to the people and the aspiration of the
So it's kosher for the BJP to swoop in and try and upset the apple cart because their house is not in order. You're saying that it's politics or it's fair in love and war?
Secondly, that I also want to ask one question, that Congress is one of the oldest party of this country. Why your MLAs are not even ideologically connected to you? They are ready and out there for sale. That means Congress MLAs are out there for sale.
Pawan, do you want to quickly take that before I take it to Nirja?
Isn't it a shame for a Congress to even
since you asked us, Mr. Nambiar, since you want to know about our communication with leaders from our party, let me warn you, we are also in touch with MLAs from your party, whether it's in Rajasthan or Haryana. अपने घर पे जरा ताले लगा के रखिए, हमारी चिंता मत करिए. So we are not just communicating with leaders from our party. Mind you, a lot of your MLAs are ready and you will see on the 10th. Number one, do you think Mr. Arjun Singh, the MP, groomed by the BJP? Why did he leave the BJP? Why did he leave the BJP? Is he ideologically, is your ideological connection so weak that Kirti Azad left you, Yashwant Sinha left you, Sidhu left you? I have a long list of people who left you. So what? Is your ideological grooming so weak? Careful, भूल जाइए उसको, but please be careful. आप अपने MLAs को अगर if you don't have address, I'll give you.
You're in touch with BJP MLAs. You're saying the Congress. Are you saying there'll be cross voting in the BJP? Pawan Khera, are you saying there'll be some surprises on the 10th? There could be cross voting on the BJP side.
Surprises for the media and shock for Mr. Nambiar. I'm trying to advise him. आप उनको रिजॉर्ट में ले जाइए, कहीं भी रख लीजिए. वो वोट कहाँ देने वाले हैं मैं आपको बता देता हूँ. वो वोट कांग्रेस को आपके यहाँ से कितना क्रॉस ओवर होने वाला है. Both in Haryana also. In Haryana also, even just because you are in power, don't think that your MLAs are voting for Mr. Kartikeya. आज लिख कर ले लीजिए क्या होने वाला है 10 तारीख.
Nirja Chaudhary,
he calls me again on 10th.
There was a time when Rajya Sabha elections used to be pretty boring. Not anymore.
No, but they've not been boring for a very, very, very long time. And both sides are talking about this poaching culture. I go back to what the Congress did in 1995 in Gujarat. You know, the great resort politics that was played out. So the Congress is not Doodh Ka Dhulawa. It's not Lily White, nor for
it's
that
not.
matter,
It's
the BJP.
Pawan Khera is saying they're in touch with BJP MLAs
Yes,
too.
that's right.
And that too
That's
openly.
It's a matter of pride, no?
That's right. That is the kind of note
Nidhi,
that struck me what I'm commenting on. But having said that, the Congress should have thought about fielding so many of its leaders as outsiders. 7 out of 10. Why couldn't Surjewala be fielded from Haryana? From Maharashtra?
Why not Pawan?
You know, it's amazing what they have done. Completely unmindful of what the local leadership and local cadre will feel. It's unthinkable. I mean, for a grand old party of India to do this, what does it tell you? That it is the Gandhi leaders, the proximity to Gandhi leadership, and I would make a distinction here between loyalty and sycophancy. It is that which has mattered more than any other consideration. That is the sad part of it. And certainly the BJP needs to be condemned if it is poaching, as does the Congress.
Pawan Khera and Mr. Nambiar, quick last comments. Pawan, yes.
As far as accusing the Congress कि साहब आप दूध के धुले हुए नहीं हो तो माफ कीजिएगा हम भी इसी मैदान में हैं तो we have to learn from the rivals language. हम उनको जवाब देंगे और मुंहतोड़ जवाब देंगे. Now if we don't do it, my friend Nidhi and Nirja ji, you will say, "Arey, you don't have fire in your belly." So, ma'am, we have huge fire in our belly, and you will see the results on the 10th. I won't get into your value judgment कि अरे साहब आप unethical हैं, होंगे unethical, लेकिन हम इनको जवाब देंगे.
Mr. Nambiar.
Come what may. And as far as Mr. Nambiar, you are concerned, you and I will go to the Rajya Sabha together. So don't shed tears for me.
We'll go together.
मैं और आप इकट्ठे जाएंगे. Don't worry.
I would like to take the other route, sir. Acha, one second.
You come from our party, not any party.
It's an apathy of a party, of such an old party. They have to look at not looking at their own house, but they have to look at some other party to get some people to get their leaders to elect them into the Rajya Sabha. I don't think anything else can be told. If you have to look at another party to choose your own Rajya Sabha member, despite you having the numbers, that means it's.
So that's what you are doing in Gujarat, no? With Mr. Ahmed Patel. आप कर रहे हो तो बहुत बढ़िया काम कर रहे हो. तब तो कहते हो साहब आपके एमएलएस क्यों बिक रहे हैं? हम कर रहे हैं तो कहते हो आप हमारे एमएलएस क्यों ले जा रहे हो? I mean, please make up your mind.
Pawan ji, you are actually half true. You are talking about. You need to understand that what happened in Gujarat, and you also better accept the fact that in 2017, despite scoring well, as Nidhi said, 2019 you vanished completely from the.
No, we are talking about Rajya Sabha elections.
I am talking about Rajya Sabha elections.
Talking about Rajya Sabha. We will not only get.
I have to wrap.
Our MLAs
I have to wrap. But this is very interesting. It's very interesting. The challenge has been thrown by the Congress today. It's saying that okay, our MLAs are in resorts ahead of these elections, but you're promising a surprise, Pawan Khera, saying the BJP's MLAs aren't safe either. All right, let's see what happens next week. Thank you very much to all of you for joining us tonight. Thank you.